Om. Tumeva mata cha pita tumeva bandhuscha saka tumeva vidya dravinam tumeva sarvam mama deva deva. Sri Dakshinamurti Sudeshi Kendram Dvaipayanam Sutrakritam Munindram Sri Shankaram Bhashyakritam Yatindram Maddeshi Kanchapi Namami Vityai. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsa Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyah Sarvopa Plavarahita Prajnana Ganaha Pratyagarto Brahmaivahamasmi. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Muhnina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaita Amritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindaya Tapatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipah Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panahe Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gita Mritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Duktam Gita Mritam Mahat Vasudev Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadrona Tata Jayadrata Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Vela Kula Ashwattama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhanavartini Sotirna Kalupandavai Rananadi Kaivartakah Keshavah Parasharya Vachassa Roja Mamalam Geetartha Gantotkatam Nana Kyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Mudha Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pragvamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sanga Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na Vidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om Krishnaya Paramatmane Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Pranams everyone. So we were in the 13th chapter. We were doing sloka number 8. We had completed sloka number 8. Here in the 13th chapter, Bhagavan is talking about all the values that one needs to have for a person to be able to imbibe, accept, understand, assimilate this knowledge, the knowledge of self. And only through this knowledge one can acquire or one can get moksha. So these are the preparatory steps that Bhagavan is explaining or giving out. These are the values that every sadhaka should have. In that we had seen in the last class or until last class, sloka number 8, Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantihi, Arjavam. That was in the first line of the sloka 8. And then we saw Acharya Upasanam, Shaucham, Stairyam, and then Atma Vinigraha. Those 9 values we saw in sloka number 8. Amanitvam humility, adambitvam, simplicity, ahimsa, not to hurt anybody, kshanti, endurance, forbearance, patience, arjavam is straightforwardness, acharya upasanam is guru seva, shaucham is purity, stairyam is that steadfastness, and then atma vinigraha we saw as ability to have control on the body and mind. So these are the 9 values we had seen so far, and we saw what is it that we need to do to assimilate or get these values. Now Bhagavan is actually further enumerating more values in the coming slokas. We will go to sloka number 9. Shri Bhagavan uvacha indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankara eva cha janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankara eva cha janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So again, further more values are enumerated in this sloka. The first one in this sloka, Bhagavan says indriyarteshu vairagyam. Vairagya means dispassion. Dispassion on what? Bhagavan says indriya arteshu. Indriya arteshu means sense objects. So when we say Vairagya, lot of people have different understanding or different meaning of this word term Vairagya. Especially this is commonly used in Tamil also. So there is a lot of probably meanings that should not be attributed to Vairagya. Now before we understand what is Vairagya, let us try to understand what it is not. Vairagya is not stubbornness. Normally we use this very frequently in Tamil, where we attribute Vairagya is that avanukku romba vairagyam jaasti, he doesn't want to talk, implying that Vairagya means stubbornness. What Vairagya is meant, the correct term of the correct meaning of Vairagya here is not this stubbornness. It is not stubbornness. It is also not indifference. Some people show indifference, and that is also attributed to Vairagya. Vairagya does not mean indifference. Some people say he's got Vairagya and attribute that to being irresponsible. So irresponsibility, that is also not considered as Vairagya. He has got Vairagya, so he left his family. So irresponsibility is not attributed as Vairagya. Some people use this also for aversion. Again, that is also something that should not be referred here. So Vairagya is not stubbornness. Vairagya is not indifference. Vairagya is not irresponsibility. Vairagya is not aversion. So what is Vairagya? First, when we say indriya artam, indriya artesu, indriya artam. So sense objects, indriyas means here the sensory organs, and indriya artam means sense objects. Sense objects give us bhogam or pleasure. So when we eat good food, when we listen to good music, when we see something nice, some good nature, it gives us pleasure. It gives us happiness. This bhogam, when we say, it is not meant for all the basics. We need basically some food. We need a food to live. We need air to breathe. We need water to drink. These are not considered as bhogam. But anything on top of it, which can actually satisfy, which goes beyond satisfying our basic needs, can all be classified as bhoga. Whatever we do that, it's only for pleasure. we have stopped eating for fulfilling hunger. We are only eating for, satisfying our taste buds. So we are actually, the hunger part is only a small minuscule. To fulfill hunger, anything should be okay. Even plain rice with buttermilk should be okay. But whatever we have on top of it is all for bhoga only, for pleasure. So Vairagya on this bhogas, Vairagya on this indriya arteshu, having dispassion over all these bhoga padarthas. And Vairagya means this dispassion, this ability to get over the feeling of seeking pleasure from sensory objects. So Vairagya is a condition where you do not seek, where you do not willingly go out and seek pleasure for sensory objects. And the way it is explained is Drishta Shruta Anubhuta Vishayeshu Vairagya. So whatever Drishta, whatever seen, whatever has been seen, whatever, and Shruta, whatever has been heard, Anubhuta, whatever has been experienced, whatever can be experienced, on all those objects, Vairagya. That is what Bhagavan means here. What has been seen, I've seen a BMW car, I've seen a Ferrari car, I've got an SUV car, I've seen this car, I've seen this necklace, I've seen this property, this house. All these are seen objects, objects that my eyes are seeing on a daily basis. What has been heard, I have heard of holiday in Switzerland, I have heard of Swargaloka, heaven. So whatever I have heard but not seen, I have to get Vairagya on those as well. Whatever has been experienced, I am experiencing comfort, I am experiencing an air-conditioned room, I am experiencing a soft pillow, I am experiencing nice jewelry on my body. All those things are all experienced ones. So the desire can come on items that have been seen, that have been heard, that have been experienced, that have not been experienced also. Because if I had just seen or heard, I can have desire on that also. I don't have a BMW car, I see a BMW car, I get desire for that. So now the question is, can that thirst of desire be quenched? Can we really quench it? Can we really satisfy it? Can we really fulfill it by just indulging in it? If we indulge in it, will it get satisfied? Will I be happy? And in Mahabharata, there is a shloka which actually explains in such a way that when you try to fulfill the desire, thinking that by fulfilling the desire you will be quenching the thirst for it, it is as good as quenching a fire by pouring oil into it. It is as good as quenching a fire by pouring oil into it. In other words, it is never going to be quenched. So the only way to overcome the desire, our Shastra says, is to develop Vairagya, is to develop dispassion. Again, when I say Vairagya, do not take this to be an aversion. When we say Vairagya, it doesn't mean that I have to have an aversion for jewelry. It doesn't mean that I have to have an aversion for BMW car. It doesn't mean that I have to have an aversion for comfort. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that I have to run away from all these things. Vairagya is about managing the desire in such a way that if it is there, I am able to enjoy it. If it is not there, I am not complaining about it. I don't go seek for it. That is Vairagya. This detachment, we say, dispassion or detachment. Detachment, some people also view it wrongly. They feel it is actually not right. Again, the understanding of the word detachment is probably then wrong in that case. Detachment is a right emotion towards a lot of things in this world. In Tamil we say patru inmai. Patru means attachment. Patru inmai is detachment. Or dispassion we can say is not getting enslaved by the pleasure or comfort given by the sense objects. So the sense objects are there for them to give me pleasure, and I am not getting enslaved by that is called dispassion. It's called Vairagya. Again, I keep repeating, it is not about hating it. It is not about showing aversion to it. The only thing we have to be careful about is we should not get attached to it. We should not get addicted to it. We should not feel enslaved to it. And how will I know whether I have got attached to it, addicted to it, whether I am enslaved to it? I have to see the position when it is there in front of me and I am not using it, or I am not allowing myself to experience it. So there is a probably, if I want to check my Vairagya on, say, a gulab jamun, then I want, the gulab jamun is in front of me. It is not that I have had 10 gulab jamun so far. This is the 11th one and I want to have an aversion. I don't want to eat it. It is the first gulab jamun in many months. And I still feel okay by not having it. Then it means I have developed detachment on it. It means I have developed Vairagya on it. And Bhagavan says Vairagya indri arteshu, on all the sense objects. Again, so it does not happen overnight. It is not something that we can, from tomorrow I decide to have Vairagya. It doesn't happen that. It takes time, because it is an attitude that we will have to cultivate. It is not like a job, or it is not an action that I have to do. Suppose tomorrow I say from tomorrow I decide to go to gym. There is no attitude involved. It is only an action. So tomorrow onwards I can do that. But I cannot say from tomorrow onwards I will have Vairagya. It doesn't happen that way. I will have to build it over time. And for that, this Vairagya has to become our personality. Some people will say, I have actually developed Vairagya already. I have Vairagya on so many things already. If we actually analyze further, if we look at ourselves and we start analyzing ourselves, we will be able to see that what we have, we would have got freedom from certain objects, but that would have been replaced with another object. So the question is, have I got freedom from these objects? Have I got Vairagyam now? If we analyze, one object is replaced by another. For example, when we were kids, we were actually behind the toy car. The toy cars that we actually play with. If that car gets broken, we would have cried, or we would have had some attachment to biscuits. When you take out a biscuit from the hand of a child, the child cries because it's got attachment to the biscuit. Now we cannot say, now I have developed a Vairagya over biscuit, I have developed Vairagya on the toy car, but that would have been replaced by gold biscuit or a real car. So only the object would have changed, but the Vairagya on all the objects would not have happened. So the feeling, the underlying feeling to get pleasure from sense objects, it does not change. Only the object changes. The underlying feeling remains that I can only seek pleasure, I can only get pleasure from sense objects. So this is how we will have to self-evaluate ourselves. The next question is, how can I get this Vairagya? If I have to get this Vairagya, what should I do? The first one is, this is the most important one. This is the primary method of getting Vairagya, and that is through Viveka. If we had seen, if you had attended the introduction to Vedanta series, we would have discussed about Viveka, Vairagya there too. So Viveka is the primary means of getting Vairagya. What is Viveka? Viveka, we have already seen, Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. What is permanent, what is fleeting or impermanent or temporary. The ability to discriminate between what is permanent and what is impermanent. That Viveka alone, first we will have to get that conviction on that. And once we have that conviction, from there we can build our Vairagya. Vairagya, as I said, is the feeling of not seeking pleasure from sense objects. There is another set of Vairagya or another Vairagya that people might get without going through this Viveka method. We call that as Masana Vairagya. Masana Vairagya, Masana means the cremation ground. The Vairagya that a person gets in the cremation ground. When we see a death in close quarters and when we are at the cremation ground, the philosophy that people will exude there will be of top class philosophy. We will talk about how fleeting the life is. We will talk about how small and unworthy all these things, all these objects in life are. We might be able to really seem to have built that Vairagya. We'll be able to talk about all those higher goals in life and not getting caught up with this mundane, rat race. And our ability or the inability to actually find faults with stop finding faults with others. But what happens, this Vairagya is Masana Vairagya. It is not a Vairagya that has come out of full conviction. So after we come back from the cremation ground, we'll come back and then we'll ask for, after some time, we'll ask for coffee. Because without coffee, we'll not be able to live. Or without tea, we'll not be able to function. So after that, again, it goes back to the same old story. So this Masana Vairagya is a temporary Vairagya. At that point of time, our mind is not fully into our control. So that Vairagya cannot be taken as proper Vairagya. Because in any abnormal conditions, when in abnormal conditions, the behavior of mind is not in our control. So we should not take that for permanent our Svabhava. So which Vairagya will last? Only a Vairagya that comes out of Viveka will last. It will last longer and more permanent. So does that mean that when I get Viveka, when I am able to identify what is permanent and what is impermanent, what is temporary, what is fleeting and what is not, will I be able to get Vairagya on my own? Just by getting Viveka? The answer is no. Viveka might come, but Vairagya may not come immediately. So, there are people who have actually thought that life is actually, there is a larger meaning to life, and have gone to forests, meditated for many, many years, and then have come back to regular family life also after that. So it doesn't mean that That Vairagya is something that I would be able to get, in a few days, in a few months, or a few years time also. It may be even a few janmas. It may be even a few lifetime to get complete Vairagya. But we have to process. We have to start somewhere. We have to slowly start somewhere. So having this Vairagya is an important qualification. In fact, for this Jnana, Sadhana Chatushtayam, Viveka, Vairagya are the two main important qualifications. Now the question is, okay, what do I need to get Viveka then, to get my Vairagya? So Viveka, to get this Viveka, I need to understand the doshas of these sense objects. So the idea is, all the sense objects, I have to have an understanding of its limitation. I have to have an understanding of the faults of those sense objects. Only then I will be able to get Vairagya on it. If I am actually attached to somebody, if I am actually madly in love with someone, the moment I start seeing faults in that person, naturally my love or affection goes down. My attachment or addiction goes down from that. In the same way, in all the sense objects that I am experiencing, that I seek pleasure from, I should start seeing the doshas. I should start seeing the faults. And what are the faults that we can see? Number one, it weakens. The Kathopanishad says, Kathopanishad is an Upanishad. In it, the Shastra says, the Upanishad says, that all these sense objects that are there, they are not required. As we experience them, it starts to weaken our sense organs. The more we seek pleasure from a sense organ, the faster it gets weakened. It's true with the eyes, that we actually, suppose if we are too much on watching television, watching TV series, watching movies, the more we experience or use the sense organ, the faster it weakens. It's given. So that is one way to understand that there is a fault in the sense objects. The more I start using the sense organs for these objects, the faster these sense organs will weaken. So that is one way. The second one is, there is never a full contentment. There is always a discontentment. Again, Kathopanishad, Nachiketa says, when Yamadharmaraja offers Nachiketa, you go back, I will give you land, I will give you money, I will give you riches. You can go back and live happily. Nachiketa says, he is clear. He says this money and land will not give me full contentment. This money gives me fear. Beyond there is always a fear before it comes to me, money, because without money, I don't know whether I'll be able to live a happy life or not, whether I've got enough money to live my old age, whether there is enough insurance to cover all my health issues. That there is always this fear about money before it comes to me. And once it comes to me also, I am worried whether I will be able to retain it, whether I will not lose it in the stock market, whether I will not lose it in a bad investment, whether I will not lose it to some thief, some burglar. So there is always this money which always comes with fear attached to it. And however much money I make, there is always a fear. Who will take care of me in my old age? Whether my children will take care of me, whether my spouse will be alive, whether I will be healthy, whether they will be healthy, will this money be enough? So there is always this discontentment. There is never a full contentment. The third thing about this sense objects is, it is not everlasting. All sensory objects give me happiness, no doubt, but it is all temporary. It's all fleeting. All these material objects give me temporary and fleeting happiness. But we think this artha and kama, they can give me permanent happiness. We go back to this name, fame, power, position, money, and all these sense objects, thinking that they are going to give me permanent happiness. If I am actually able to make a mark in my office now, or with my neighbors or with my friends, or if I am able to make myself prominent in this community, in this neighborhood, then I can be kind of happy ever after. It doesn't work that way. It is always temporary. It doesn't last forever. So all this sense objects related pleasure is all not everlasting. So this is another way to imbibe Viveka. All these sense objects they weaken my mind, they weaken my sense objects, they do not give me full contentment, and even if they give me any contentment, it is all only temporary. And the last and fourth is, it can also get me addicted to it. Things which can give me security, things that I think will give me security, are the ones which also give me trouble also. So I think this money is going to give me security, but if I start going after money, I might get addicted to money, to get more and more money. Money is never enough for me. Or if I think that this relation is going to give me security, then that relationship, there will be a lot of issues, and there will be issues as well, and then that will give me trouble also. That addiction is another one. Or even if I take some food, for example, I start liking something, I get addicted to it, and that will land me in trouble. If I take too much of sweet, for example, I might get diabetes. So there is always this issue of, am I getting addicted to it? For comfort also, the body, for example, is very, very it gets immediately addicted to comfort. So I'm actually, maybe about 20-30 years back, when we were there, we were not exposed to air conditioners. We were happy under the fan. But now in summer, we are not able to live without an air conditioner, say for example. So the body got addicted to this air conditioning. So that is also another problem that we have with all these sense objects. So this we have to analyze, and from there we have to know that this is how we have to develop Viveka, and from there we will have to develop Vairagya. And this Vairagya has to come out of this Viveka only. This Viveka is this knowledge about this world. There is nothing in this world which is permanent. And this world seems to be like, but everybody seems to be deriving pleasure out of this world. But why does the Shastra say that the world does not give me happiness? In fact, Shastra in one place, when it describes this world, when it says Jagat Swarupam, it defines it this way. It says Jagat Avicharya Paryantam Ramaniyam. Jagat Avicharya Paryantam means until the world is analyzed. Avicharya Paryantam, until the world is not analyzed. Ramaniyam. Ramaniyam means beautiful. It gives me happiness. The moment I start actually doing vichara, when I start looking into the real nature of this world, I can identify all these things. It is weakening my sense objects. It is actually not giving me full contentment. It is temporary. It is addictive, and all those things. So Viveka, from there Vairagya. Remember that any Vairagya, as I said, has to come out of Viveka. Any Vairagya that comes out of sadness. So I've got a relationship failure, or I have got some death in the family, or I have had an accident, or I have had a job loss. Any of those sadness, if I get Vairagya from those incidents, that is not going to last forever. Any Vairagya that is not comes out of calamity. Suppose there is a job loss and I get Vairagya. The moment I get a job back, there's no more Vairagya. I go back to square one. There is a death. Once I'm able to overcome the death, I am back to square one. There is a relationship failure. Once I'm able to get a new relationship or a new person whom I can relate to, it's gone. So there is anything that comes out of sadness, anything that comes out of a calamity, anything that comes out of a failure, that Vairagya will not last long. A Vairagya that comes out of Viveka, where we are able to analyze the world and then take lessons out of it, only that Vairagya will last. So why is this Vairagya then so important? Why is Bhagavan calling this Vairagya out? What is so important about this Vairagya? What happens when we don't have this Vairagya? You can see that whenever there is no Vairagya, there is a Vikshepa. Vikshepa means the mind is not calm. The mind is always, it is not calm, it is always fluttering. The mind is not available for us. It is always disturbed. The mind is always disturbed. Any object on which I don't have Vairagya, my mind will be disturbed. Any object on which my mind has got, where I have Vairagya, the mind will not be disturbed. We can see this for sure. So this Vairagya will, if lack of Vairagya will give me a disturbed mind. Wherever I am addicted, wherever I am so attached, wherever I am enslaved, I will have a disturbed mind. The second one is, it is called as moksha apravritti. Apravritti means Vairagya acts against moksha. Or rather, if I or lack of Vairagya will go against moksha. In the sense, if I don't have Vairagya, or if I am going against that, the more and more or the less and less I have Vairagya, the more and more I am going against moksha. Because these two paths are different. If I don't have Vairagya, if I am getting more and more attached to the worldly objects, then the more and more I am away from moksha. So this is, Vairagya is very important. In terms of how this moksha and Vairagya will play a part, we will see them all in chapter 2. When we go to chapter 2, we will be able to relate them. But we have already seen this in Introduction to Vedanta. But if you have not attended, or if you feel you've forgotten, we will be going through that in chapter 2 later on. So next question is, what happens when we have Vairagya? Again, when I said not having Vairagya will give us Vikshepa, having Vairagya will give me a calm mind. It will give me Shanti. I'll have a calm mind. And Moksha Pravritti. It will develop my desire for moksha. It will give me mumukshutvam. It will induce me for moksha. So whatever object from which, if there is an object and I am having Vairagya on it, that will, from that object, what will I gain? I will not gain pleasure from that object. I will gain freedom. I will gain peace of mind from that object. So that is what Indriya Arteshu Vairagyam. So once I get Viveka, what do I need to do to get Vairagya? I have to basically use my intellect. The spiritual life is a life of awareness. So I have to constantly be aware of what my mind is, what my intellect is, how it is reacting. So use my intellect to defeat those desires. I say I have to do analysis whether this is actually giving me the pleasure. Is it really that I need it? Kind of thing. Then use the adharma viveka. Have valid desires. But even having those valid desires, don't be an overbogey. Don't overindulge on things. Because some people have this fear that, the desires will leave me. If I am not indulging in it, this desire to gain recognition, this desire to make a mark in this world will leave me. What they don't understand is there are countless number of people who are dedicating their entire life to actually remove desires. Removing desires, not forcibly, not out of coercion, but more out of understanding. So never try to force yourself out of a desire. Try to understand it, try to reduce it to first start with, and then eliminate it. Do not go for full elimination straight away. So some people fear that, if I remove this desire, I'll become a Vairagi, and from that Vairagi, I will not be able to live my life happily. What happens if I get Vairagya? Then it will be a pain for me to live this life. Those are all wrong things, because first of all, by having Vairagya, one will not have a disturbed life. And first of all, for those people who think that they might get Vairagya by actually removing desires, for them the Vairagya will not come at all. Because this is only for people who do sadhanas and who actually understand what is real Vairagya. Some people, without taking all this vichara, doing Viveka, if some people has developed a Vairagya suddenly, say for example, a Ramana Maharishi had Vairagya at the age of 13. He left his family and he went to Tiruvannamalai. How does that happen? How he doesn't seem to have done any vichara. He doesn't seem to have done any Viveka. He was only 13 years old. So for them, what Shastra says, what is the answer? If for someone Vairagya has come just by a few vichara, that means he has done a lot of sadhana in his previous birth. It is not that these people are specially born by a blessing from Ishvara and they are special individuals and we are not, and therefore they can afford to be like that. It's because some common things that come out is, oh, those people are all special people. We cannot be like them. They are different. We are different. No, it is not true. They are also human beings. We are also human beings. The only thing is they have done their sadhana in their previous life. So if we do our sadhanas in this life, there will be a life by when we can also reach that stage. So the question is, they are not specially blessed by Ishvara. They are not specially dropped from the heaven. They have also gone through the same lives as us. So we have to understand that they would have done some special sadhana in their previous life and therefore they have been able to get to this stage. For example, we know, Siddhartha saw one corpse, one dead body. And from there he was able to develop that Vairagya. He left the family and he became Gautam Buddha. Just one corpse, one dead body. There is this Patinathar who saw just one broken needle. And when he saw that even this one broken needle will not come to us in the next life, I cannot carry even this broken needle with me. He was a very rich man. And when he understood, and when he saw this writing, that even this broken needle will not come with me to my next life, in my next life, that Vairagya came in, set in. But that doesn't mean he has not done any sadhanas. Those sadhanas would have been done in his previous life. So we have to do those sadhanas. So for us, we will have to do sadhanas, and it might take some lives, but we will be there one day. Again, when we actually start how to more to get Vairagya, start limiting our desires to only dharmic desires. Even dharmic desires, limit yourself to not over enjoyment, over indulgence. Reduce, have a measured way of indulging in desires. Then after some time, slowly we will get Vairagya on that. Desires, moderate desires. Let us not go for avaricious consumption. So from following dharma also, Vairagya will come in. So as we follow dharma, Vairagya will automatically come in. So this is Indriya Arteshu Vairagya. This is the 10th value that Bhagavan has given. He has given total of 20. This is the 10th one. 24. The next one he has given is Indriyarteshu Vairagya Anahankara Evacha. Anahankara. Anahankara means not being with this Ahankaram, not having this Ahankaram. It's got two meanings. One is, we can use the Tamil Ahankara, not being egoistic. This fellow acts with Ahankara, we say. That without being this, without being egoistic. That is one meaning. Or being with humility, not having this garva. That is one meaning. The second or the important meaning is that I am not this body mind, that feeling. Anatmani aham dhrida bhavana. Anatmani aham dhrida bhavana. That is Ahankara. So that Ahankara is, I am this body. That is the general feeling, general definition for Ahankara. And we say Anatmani, this is this Dhrida Bhavana, that I am this body mind. So Anahankara means not having this feeling that I am this body. That is the correct meaning or the second meaning for it. In other words, removing this abhimana on this body, removing this attachment on this body, removing this notion that I am this body, removing that close attachment that I have. How do we do it? By developing Vairagya. So whenever we know, right, whenever we experience pleasure from an object, we get addicted to it, we get attached to it. Something is giving me happiness or pleasure, some sweet is giving me happiness or pleasure, I go for it the next time. Somebody is giving me happiness, I go for it next time. Something that I see gives me happiness, I go and see it again to get me happiness. And I slowly get addicted to it. We have to identify it. We have to be honest with it. We have to do it with awareness. And we have to see our mind honestly and then decide, okay, I have to get Vairagya on it. So Vairagya is one way to actually remove the Ahankara on this body, from this body. The second is actually doing tapas. Tapas means voluntarily giving us some bit of pain, a little bit which we can take it. For example, we say Mauna Vrata. I don't want to talk to anybody for some time. Mauna Vrata. Having Mauna Vrata, and then the idea behind Mauna Vrata is to let our body and mind calm down. But then that is the time when people will start making a lot of gestures also. That should be avoided. Then upavasa, trying to avoid a meal or two in between to control the cravings. So that is upavasa. So we have to, tapas means actually to melt. So we have to melt ourselves. So, and this tapas is voluntarily done. If somebody says you cannot eat for one day or once a meal, then we get angry with them. If somebody in the house says, if a spouse says, or my in-law says that you cannot eat for you will not be given one meal a day, then it will make us angry. But if I do it on my own, then I won't get angry. So that way I will be able to accept it and also manage my cravings. So tapas is a nice way to actually develop anahankara. So that is anahankara. So that was value number 11. Then the value 12. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshana. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshana. This is a value which acts as a seed for Vairagya. If we are able to analyze this particular value, our both Anahankara as well as Vairagya will be faster. So what is this? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. We know that. Janma is what? Birth. Mrityu, death. Jara, old age. Vyadi, we know, disease. And what Bhagavan says, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, all these four is mixed with dukkha. It is all mixed with soka. It is all mixed with sadness. And that dukkha, it is a dosha. It is a fault that is there in all these four stages. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. The dukkham is mixed with it. This dosha, this fault, he asks us to say, he says, anudarshana. See it again, repeatedly see it. He says, Bhagavan says, this janma, birth is a dukkham. Because this life is not a rosy life. Everybody will have a lot of problems in life. That dukkham, you see that. Jara, mrityu, death is giving a dukkham. A lot of people we know, we will all cry when there is a death. That is also a dukkham. We have been so close to this person, suddenly this person leaves us. It is a dukkham. Jara, old age is a pain. Old age is a dukkham. As we grow older, emotional problems set in, physical problems set in. All these problems will come in. That is also a dukkham. Vyadi, no need to say. Disease will always give us pain and so dukkham. So what this Bhagavan says, all these four stages of life are mixed with dukkham. That is the fault of these four stages of this life itself. And you see that repeatedly. Anudarshanam. Why do we need to see it? To get Vairagya. So when we see a padartha in this world, when we see a sense objects in this world, we see only one part of it. And what is that part we see? We see only that sukham part. The mind is always looking for what is the pleasure, what is the joy that I can get out of this object. When I see another person, when I see an object that I can eat, when I see an object that I can give me comfort, or when an object that can give me the status, I see this house, I love that house, I want to have that house. See this car, I love this car. It can give me happiness. I immediately see the joy or pleasure that the car or the house or the person can give me. But what we fail to see is that the same padartha is capable of giving me dukkha. The house, when it starts having problems, when it got plumbing issues, leaking issues, or when the house today there are things that they say the vastu of the house is not good or whatever. Once I go into the house a lot of calamities happen in house, then I start disliking the house. The house is capable of giving me dukkha also. So anything in this world is capable of giving me dukkha also. But what we look for, we immediately only look for what is the joy or happiness that I'm going to get, pleasure that I'm going to get. So when an padartha oozes dukkha, when it actually gives dukkha, I don't accept it. I don't take it. For example, if I'm having diabetes and somebody offers me a sweet, I will decline it. Because it doesn't give me pleasure. When I eat it, I am going to have problem in my health, so I decline it. So the same object can give pleasure to somebody else, can also give dukkham to another person. So an object is capable of giving pleasure and it is also capable of giving sorrow too. So this vision, we don't see it well. We don't see it properly. We need to analyze deeply. But we cannot analyze at the time of eating, at the time of enjoyment, because at that time the mind will not be available to us. We should do this analysis when we are at a different time. We have to just reflect and then think back. That is what happened with Ramana Maharishi, right? When he saw some death, and then he wanted to experience what is death. And he wanted to analyze. So he lay down and then he tried to understand. He had an out of body experience. He wanted to feel what it is like death. And then he analyzed, and then from there he understood that this life is not meant for bhoga, for enjoyment. What we think this life is meant for, the life is meant for enjoyment. But all our great saints and all our shastras say life is not meant for enjoyment. Life is meant for moksha. And we should spend time to analyze that. So for example, Vedanta should not bore us. But initially, when Vedanta talks about this, relationship, it talks about death. And it asks us to analyze about relationships. It asks us to analyze about death. We feel this a little bit of discomfort. We feel this fear. We feel that it is probably negative and all those things. Well, what we have to understand is that is the fact, that is the reality. Over a period of time, we will get this clarity. We will get this knowledge. We will be able to get wisdom from that. So this dosham, the fault, that seeing the dosha darshanam, seeing the fault is very important. In fact, there is a saying, they say, dosha darshanam pandita lakshanam. A pandit or a person who is well versed or well knowledgeable or a man of wisdom will be able to see the faults quickly. It's like proofreading. So we have to proofread our lives. We need a total vision to come out of this moham. Moham is what? Delusion. We are in this deluded world thinking that everything around me is there only to give me happiness and joy. That everything around me should be giving me happiness and joy. They should not giving me any sorrow. And if they are giving me sorrow, we have difficulties accepting it. And there is of course another, when we go deeper into the Vedanta, we will even say no object around us is giving us happiness or sorrow. It is all in our mind. When we go deeper into Vedanta, we will be able to prove that. But for the time being, we can say any object around us is not only capable of giving us joy, it is also capable of giving us sorrow. But we always think and we always want the object to give us only joy. So we are living in this deluded world, moham. So we have to come out of this moha, we have to come out of this delusion. So what we have to do, we have to do the, instead of the sukha dhyanam, we have to do the dukkha dhyanam, to say, okay, there are limitations, there are limitations in this life. And if there is a limitation on janma mrityu jara vyadi just in a human life itself, then what about the other objects? So we do this dukkha anudarshanam, repeatedly see the dosha in it, and from there be able to get vairagya. So this is dukkha dosha anudarshanam. So we had seen value number 12. More values we will see in the next class. Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, okay, we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishah. Gobrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.